Welcome to this edition of Curbside Chat, brought to you by AIA Canada and their sponsors. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. In every edition of Curbside Chat, we end up talking about how to attract and keep the best workers and partners in the auto care sector. Today, we're going to look at that head on. I'm joined today by Marie Artim. She's the Vice President of Talent Acquisition with Enterprise Mobility. And Chris Muir, he's a professor at Centennial College, who is now in charge of their continuing education going across the country, teaching EV to the fleets. Welcome, both of you. Marie, during the pandemic, everything changed for everybody. Could you tell me a little bit about what the impact of that was on enterprise mobility?
As you said, the pandemic impacted everyone, but for us, it was a huge pendulum swing. It was a really tumultuous time as a business. And then for me and the talent side of the business, we felt it in many ways as well. So, I think there were some silver linings and some things that came out of it that were great. So we, as a business, we stopped, right? So everything just stopped, and we didn't know for how long or what was going to happen or quite what to plan for as everyone was in those shoes. But I think the plus that came out of it is we had some amazing leadership. Our CEO, Chrissy Taylor, she took that opportunity of when we didn't have a lot going on, customer wise or business wise, and we knew we had to kind of think ahead. And she challenged all of us as leaders to say, how do we come out of this better, faster, stronger? What do we do that can really take advantage of this downtime to make us come back better and to try new ideas? Or are there things we should be thinking about that we haven't in the past? And, that really gave us an opportunity, all of us, to say, how can we look at our businesses differently? How do we look ahead? If you look at talent acquisition, my function in hiring, we had stopped hiring. We even had to let some people go. I mean, that was the place that we were in as a business. And so, when we thought about coming back out of that, what does that function look like? How could we do it better? And so, in a short answer kind of way, but, we did get a chance, and I got an opportunity with our team to say, let's structure things a little differently. Let's focus on what are people's, where are they strongest, and how do we take advantage of those strengths on our team, and maybe take some functions and allow them to be more focused by just individuals versus everyone. And so, long story short, when the pendulum swung, which it swung really quickly back in the other direction, where we started to come back to business quickly, we needed to hire like crazy, and probably the most difficult job market I've seen in the 30 years I've been doing this. We had the opportunity to shine and be our best, and really, I don't think we would have been in that situation hadn't we not been able to prepare ahead and to really kind of build some things around that. Now we look and say, okay, now it's kind of swung back towards the middle a bit. So we're in a place where we're in a good place from a hiring perspective, from great people. We were able to bring back people, that had been impacted. We were able to now hire on more, and even, I think, continuing to improve our talent populations, and now we can look ahead and how do we do that strategically? We're not quite as crazy as we were a year ago. So now how do we take advantage of that to kind of pace and continue in that way?
Okay. Chris, you come from the other side of the sector. You're providing a lot of the bodies that someone like Marie was looking to hire. Same kind of question. Where are you finding your students now? Has it changed? And who comprises your student body?
Gosh, my student body comprises of just about anyone you can think of all different skill levels and backgrounds. I mean, where we recruit from in order to fill the roles in the automotive service sector, we pull from kids that are absolutely crazy about cars. We pull from a lot of people coming to Canada just to study automotive. We pull from all over in order to provide the auto sector with talent that it requires at this point.
Marie, when we spoke earlier, you talked about careers within enterprise and the strength that comes from your talent pool you can pull from inside, as well as hiring new hires. So historically, the industry has been male-dominated, male-oriented at least. That's changed a great deal. What do you see happening within your workforce and the strength that you can get from hiring within? Who are you looking for?
Yeah, so I think to me, it's one of our biggest competitive advantages is that we have always been focused on, from the beginning, on that what we call internal mobility, or developing talent and developing people and giving them the opportunity to grow. It's part of, our mission statement, it's part of our values. From an inclusivity perspective and from women in the industry, those are all great examples of where I think we've been able to do well and to continue to grow and get better. You mentioned, as we always looked at this years ago as a very male-dominated industry. I think we all are working hard to shift and change that. And so as we bring women into the business, it's important that they meet, see, and learn about women that have been successful and the different ways in which they've accomplished that. So we spend a lot of time and energy internally on that. And then we also, to your point and to your question earlier, we recognize that if we develop people internally and give them the chance to grow, how do they matriculate through the system? How do they get, to new opportunities, try new things, learn new things? And I think, one of the ways we do that and look at that is the storytelling of those that are successful. So we have a female CEO. Our CEO prior to her was also female. So that's at the top, we're telling a great story, but how does that continue to grow? We want to mirror the communities around us and make sure we're supporting them from a DE&I perspective. And when we look at that movement from within, instead of it being about the who you know or how long you've been here, we are very focused on making sure it's what we call performance-based. So do you have the ability and the potential to do the job based on your own skills, your abilities, your competencies? And then how do we make sure we're promoting and rewarding that and recognizing that behavior so that it continues to grow?
Chris, building on what Marie said, you are dealing with the raw material, the kids that are coming in. Are the expectations shifting? Is it different from when you were a little kid coming into this? I think you came into it when you were quite young. I know you did. So what are the expectations? Are they shifting?
So the what we're seeing as far as expectation of people coming into the auto care industry, it's changed quite a bit over the last 20 years. When I came into this, I had an absolute, focus on all I want to do is work with cars. We have a lot more technically savvy individuals coming into this, a lot more intelligent young people coming into this, and they expect to be recognized and rewarded probably more than we were when we were young. Hearing Marie talk about recognition of people's talents and moving them up and working with them to prop them up is really, really rewarding for me to hear. It's something that we've been preaching from the bottom up, and to hear it from the top down now is absolutely fantastic. But to answer your question, what I expected, I just wanted to work with a thing with a big engine. Now we've got talent coming in that they don't want to work with a big engine. They want to work with new and emerging technologies and get excited for that. So our workforce has changed definitely over the last 20 years.
Marie, what do you think about expectations? Are you seeing a generational shift? Is it different? You've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, a long time as well. I think we've seen it. Obviously, we see those shifts happen every generation, and they continue to evolve. But I think to Chris's point, one thing would be that need for development that's very generationally. And as we look at those that we're hiring in today that are newer to the workforce, there's a much bigger expectation of what can I learn next? What can I do next? And so that promotion from within, that development of internal talent, it really speaks well to this generation. But one of the things I think as we evolve is, what do we do with that? So, we've always supported that internal mobility, but how does it look different? when you think about the 4 generations we have in the workplace today, from, those that just wanted to move up a ladder and wanted the next step up, manage more people. And today what we're seeing is what we call more the lattice than the ladder, right? I want to learn a new skill. I want to try something different. I can move over to a different department or a different function, or, try something that's not necessarily just an up, but it's just a new, that adds kind of to my overall capabilities. And so we've tried to morph the way we look at employee development in that way. I think also, to speak to something that Chris mentioned, the commitment to development when it comes to companies and corporations or organizations, some of that is really tied to, we spend so much time and energy and resources on external recruitment and to hire people in, right? So I think if you apply that mentality and start to think about those time and resources and money on the development internally, because sometimes that's the stumbling block is, I need a person that can do this today. And so we don't necessarily go find someone already in the organization and how do we skill them up, but we go find someone outside to just do it. And I think, we've made a commitment as a company, which I'm so proud of, which is, I think, really paying its dividends now. In that we say, we are open to and welcome the opportunity to just take someone we already know has the abilities, has the potential, have the raw skills, and how do we skill them up to what's new, and know that they culturally already have that connection to the organization.
I like what Marie just said, Chris, because we've spoken about your role right now, which is training EV techs across the country for fleet work. Tell me something about older workers.
The older workers, first and foremost, are quite a few of them are a little bit standoffish to the emerging technology. I just wanted to go back to something that Marie had said about recruiting within and upskilling the talent. What I've seen at a service level or a shop level is upskilling the talent using older folks can be very beneficial, both to the talent that is being upskilled as well as to the pocketbook of the older folks. So they start to mentor the younger talent that's coming in or has been recruited from inside the company. So we, at a service level, we'll take a wash kid, make him an apprentice. The older technician teaches that younger apprentice the skills that they require in order to come up. But the thing that a lot of companies stop seeing, and I'm so happy to hear that this company is not, is that when the apprentice is coming up, you are making the talent that you want for your company. You are not hiring anything with a bad habit. You're making all the habits for the talent that you've recruited from within. And it's really the benefit of that apprenticeship program. The other thing is, every once in a while, the young person can teach the old person a new trick. They go to trade school, they get an outside perspective, and they bring that back into a workplace environment, and they upskill your older people that were apprehensive originally about a change to corporate structure, the technology that they're working on, whatever it might have been. So you get this real kind of reciprocal benefit of, you've got someone a known value. You're upskilling your original talent pool without having to go outside the company and waste all those resources to get it. They're bringing in a fresh perspective, and because you've got this symbiotic relationship with a mentor, they're teaching the mentor a little bit. And at the end of the day, most people are looking at the balance sheet. That relationship is also going to build the balance sheet up in ways that you wouldn't expect as well.
Marie, talk a little bit about the flexibility that perhaps this new work generation is looking for and how that impacts the day-to-day stuff.
Of course. I think that is probably the area that has shifted the most as we look generationally, as we look at those entering the workforce today. There is an expectation that I would say is more around, working to live versus living to work. And some of that was set through the pandemic and changes that happened there, just the changing world of work, where, it's a lot around flexibility. And when you're in an industry and in a business where people need to be there, it's not something you can do remote from home in your bunny slippers numbers. You've got to be, there to, to do the work. How do you balance that need for those needs and expectations for flexibility with the needs of the business? And so, we've looked at that from all perspectives, and it's the journey we're on and we continue to grow in. And that's, how do we provide flexibility in that way? So, it's making time for life along the way, and making sure that our people feel like they have that, I don't like to use the word balance, but that work and life integration where, and some of the ways that's happened that I think are doable and have meant a lot is, play up the why you're here. So when you are in the office or in the, shop or in the workplace, there's purpose and there's meaning and there's meaningful interactions, and, there's the what you're doing makes sense while you're there. But then also, things like schedule stability and getting better about making sure people know that they can have days off or time off during the week, not just Saturday and Sunday, that they can adjust for a morning they need to come in on later, evenings where they need to be done a little earlier, or whatever we need to do to work together on that flexibility, but to allow someone to then be able to live their life and feel like they can do both. So that's a shift and an evolution that I think we continue to be on, but that we've recognized has become critically important in order to, for today's new hires, new to the workforce, to really, feel good about.
Chris, you touched on mentorship, which I think should exist across the board, no matter whether it's on the tools or at a corporate level. How's that impacted you? Because now you're teaching.
Yeah.
And when I met you, you were not teaching.
True.
You were on the tools. Now you're teaching. So how valuable is that mentorship idea and the communication of it?
So, looking back on my own history, and that's what I have to do, I have tried to be a mentor to a lot of apprentices, and I built long-lasting relationships with those apprentices through the mentorship program that affords. I've also been at the receiving end of maybe mentors that weren't exactly what they needed to be, in an environment that didn't foster that mentorship. And it is, if you're looking to build talent and you don't have a mentorship program in for your less talented employees, it gets really rough and really discouraging for somebody coming into the auto care industry to succeed, to move up, to get all of that education that they need without somebody, for lack of a better term, showing them the ropes. It's mentorship. It cannot be understated on how important it is, and you almost have to incentivize that membership, right? You can't be expected to teach somebody underneath you while you are starving to death, for lack of a better term, right? So the idea of mentorship and apprenticeship, it's fantastic and it needs to be there, but it also needs to be accounted for at a hiring level or at a building level.
Last question to you, Marie. Can you touch on the value of, I want to say soft skills, but it's a communication thing, and I really shouldn't slot it into that, but how important is that in what you're doing?
Yeah, I think, that's what we're built on. So it's I prefer to call them life skills versus soft skills, because I think soft is just the word isn't strong enough for how important they are. But those things like communication and empathy and ethics and integrity, and those are the things that no matter what else you have to learn and do, that are kind of behind the person and their successes. And so as we look at talent, as we hire externally, as we, even as we develop people, Chris wholeheartedly agree with Chris on, the importance of having mentors and coaches and advocates and those that are going to support you along the way. But it's also, how do we recognize that those life skills are there, those competencies, those abilities that are going to really help you to take on whatever is next, and how do we harness that strength? So, we've focused our hiring efforts, our development efforts, all around more of what I would call those life skills, those competencies that are relationship building, effective communicators, having empathy, even, depending on roles, things that are, persuasive qualities. There's things that are not so much about the experience, or I did this job somewhere, or I can check this box that I went to school for this thing. Obviously, the technical skills have to be there, but those pieces really, I think, are the most critical, especially as someone grows.
Attracting the right employees and keeping them happy and moving forward. I'd like to thank my guests today, Marie Artim, Chris Muir. I'm Lorraine Sommerfeld for AIA Canada. That's it for Curbside Chat.